Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for the latest in the LBV series of webinars on subjects that we believe will benefit Leicestershire businesses and their advisors. We're very fortunate today to be joined by three senior leaders representing each of the three universities in our county. We have Professor Phil Baker from the University of Leicester, Professor Steve Rothberg from Loughborough University, and Professor David Umber from De Montfort University. So in the next hour, we look forward to learning more about the work they do and getting under the skin of the universities to understand what expertise, support and resources are on offer to our local businesses to help them develop and grow. We've referred in our promotional material for today's event, we've referred to these resources as gold mines. So we'd like to find out if these mines are being effectively utilised, or if not, what we can do about it. If you have any questions during the presentations, please submit them via the chat function on the webinar, and I will ask them on your behalf at the end of the presentations. So without further ado, can I ask Phil, would you like to kick off please to tell us a bit more about yourself and the work that the University of Leicester is doing in this area?
Thank you very much, Graham. Thank you very much, Graham. So I'm the University of Leicester's Pro Vice Chancellor for Research and Enterprise. And in this role, I lead our efforts to foster research excellence and optimize the impact of that research to drive ambitious innovation and enterprise and to nurture the next generation of researchers. Next slide, please. So we've got significant assets which are firing growth within the region. This year we celebrate our centenary, and as the university enters its second century, we're innovating for positive change, and that's right at the heart of our activities, with 1,700 researchers securing 70 million of research funding every year across a range of disciplines. We've got a wealth of dynamic research. And actually, if you can just keep pushing until you get all of the slide up rather than doing it in bits, that would be fantastic. A student base of 18,000 creates a deep pool of talent. We offer a broad range of executive education from space law to management training. And we've invested in the Leicester Innovation Hub, a dedicated incubation and innovation space to support business to launch great ideas. You'll have heard about Space Park Leicester, and I'll talk a bit more about that in the second session, but phase 1 opened this spring, phase 2 opens in the autumn, and that's going to provide state-of-the-art high-tech facilities for research, development and manufacturing. And just a few stats, the Space Park Leicester's garnered 100 million in investment. We've invested 16 million in our new School of Business. A quarter of our graduates go on to work in the city and county. We're rated within the top 100 most innovative universities in Europe, the top 10 in the UK for producing CEOs, and the top 25 targeted by leading employers in the UK. The university sustains one in every 23 jobs in the city, and the annual GVA is 600 million to the UK, 360 million to the city and county. Next slide, please, Graham. Let's go right to the next slide. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Our approach is to build on our international reputation and strengths in particular sectors: space, medicine, data, artificial intelligence, and to develop collaborations with small and medium businesses, global corporates, public and third sector organizations. And our commercial innovation team seeks to build solutions based on an assessment of business leads right from pre-startup through to growth. We manage business incubation at Space Park Leicester and within the Leicester Innovation Hub. We host a range of subsidised business support and innovation products from space technology to life sciences. For example, at Space Park Leicester, businesses can book time in our laboratories and clean rooms. And we recently launched the government's Help to Grow scheme to provide business and management training to leaders in SMEs. We will work with you to source talent for your product, for your projects, or for full-time employment. Next slide, please. Just one example of a case study is around EarthSense, whereby university research in sensors and air quality was incubated at the university in collaboration with Spun Out, now has multiple Innovate UK projects, knowledge transfer partnerships, recruited university graduates, and we've got a mature product portfolio that's with 25 staff co-located at Space Park Leicester. Next slide, please. We're open for business. We want to work with you. Our approach is to seek to be easy to deal with, to allow companies to reduce the cost of their innovation, to access support, to help develop new products, to help train your workforce. If anybody's interested, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us, either through the Innovation Hub, and the contact details are there, or if it's around Space Park opportunities through Space Park Leicester. We really look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. It's my turn now, and I missed my cue, Steve. I apologise. I'm delighted to hand over to my colleague, Steve Rothberg from the University of Loughborough. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much. Let me tell you a few things to set the scene about Loughborough University. I'm Steve Rothberg. I'm the Pro Vice Chancellor for Research at Loughborough. Next slide, please. So this is our home in the Midlands, our Loughborough campus. I hope at least some of you are familiar with it. We operate these days from two campuses. We have our main campus in the Midlands, obviously in the town of Loughborough, but we also have a second campus now on the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park in East London, and we try to make our two sites work harmoniously together. Next slide, please. I put this slide up just so you can see the discipline areas that we are active in. We certainly have a very strong reputation in the STEM area, in science, technology, engineering and maths. Our engineering is very extensive. We have a separate design school, we have a school of science, but we're also very significant in the humanities, in our School of Social Sciences and Humanities, where we also do obviously our social science work. We have a business school that covers business and economics. And some of you may have heard we do a bit of sport at Loughborough as well, and that's a great strength of ours. You can see on this slide too that the way we operate our London campus is as a school, and it has a very multidisciplinary makeup. And indeed, one of the main points of our London campus is about partner engagement, and that really goes to a very important part of the personality of Loughborough University. Well, all our schools are active in research. One of the questions that was put to us in the preparation was, you know, what do universities do outside of teaching students? So we have about 850 academic staff at the moment. They all spend about 40% of their time on research. We have about 350 research assistants who spend all of their time on research. And about 1,000 PhD students, actively registered PhD students, who obviously also all spend their time in research, though they're at a very early career stage. But those numbers at least I hope give you some impression of the scale of the research activity that you might be interested in trying to access at a university like Loughborough. Next slide, please. We do declare a number of areas as priorities in various ways. At the university, we have a programme that we call the Beacons, and we use that to tell the world that areas like the built environment, communication from a social sciences perspective, manufacture, sport and transport technologies, everything from propulsion through to mobility and safety, are important areas for us. And we've had particular emphasis in the last 5-year period over changing environments, about living with climate change, about energy, everything there from, let's say, photovoltaic technology through to user behaviour work in our design school. We don't have a med school at Loughborough, but we're still very active in health and well-being, with a particular emphasis on the use of medicine, use of exercise as medicine. And we have an emphasis on secure and resilient societies as well to complete that set. Next slide, please. But I've got two aims in this, my first slot on the this afternoon's event. My first is to keep to the 5 minutes, which I think I've just about done. And my second aim is just not to overcomplicate it. Three core messages that I want to leave this bit of my presentation with is that we are genuinely keen to work with organisations such as yourselves, and we do so extensively already. If you want to find out real detail about the way we do it, the projects we've done and case studies and so on, please Google Loughborough University Enterprise, and you'll be able to access lots more information than I can tell you in my precious 5 minutes, though I won't just leave it at that. When I come back in a few minutes' time, I'll say a little bit more about some of the things that we do. We have a lot of tried and tested mechanisms, many of them with public funding, and I think that's one of the great advantages of working with a university, is that we can leverage public funding for you. And we have a dedicated team to help you find your way around. I don't need to tell you all the fine detail of different schemes that you might participate in. We have a partnership development team who will talk to you and will be happy to steer you through all of that. So that's it from me for now. It's now my great pleasure to hand over to Professor David Umber from DMU, who will tell you about his piece of this story.
Thank you, Steve, and good afternoon, everybody. So I'm David Umber, I'm Pro-Vice Chancellor for Research and Enterprise. Unlike Phil and Steve, responsible for the research activity, but also the enterprise and knowledge exchange activity. Before I start, next slide. Thank you. DMU, we're about 27,000 students. We had an economic impact assessment done about a couple of years ago. And we are worth about £500 million to the UK economy. Our students in Leicester support about 1,500 jobs and 7,800 jobs in the UK. Interestingly, 1 in every 30 Leicester jobs can be traced back to DMU. I think Phil said 1 in 23 for Leicester, so I think I've got to try and improve on my numbers then, Phil, haven't I? But that gives you a flavour of the economic impact we have within the city. Next slide, please. Now, at the background is my team who work in our innovation centre. And historically, we're very much an applied curriculum university. And this also translates to our research, which is very much applied. So we don't do any theoretical physics. You know, we're very much more around applying technology to kind of solve societal challenges. As a university, we have a vision to empower students, our community and businesses. And for the enterprise directorate, we really want to be the partner of choice across the Midlands for any businesses who want to grow, upskill and innovate. And in doing this over the last few years, we've been focusing more on addressing low skill levels, particularly also around the below average digital capabilities, and also trying to improve productivity rates within the region. Primarily, we do this by connecting businesses with academic expertise where we can. But also, it's important to mention that we're also working, and again, in this instance, with the University of Leicester, in trying to ensure that we can retain the skilled graduates in Leicester, so that there's a bigger skill base for which employers or businesses can call upon. And that's a scheme that's already ongoing with the City Council. Next slide, please. So how do we go about trying to foster and empower businesses? We are the lead sponsor for the Leicester Business Festival, and this provides a platform of not just us as academics being able to showcase some of our expertise, but also to help provide an environment that allows businesses in the region to exchange ideas and thoughts. Next slide, please. Now, I put up this slide. It's KFC, and I do like KFC, I will admit that. This is a KFC Global Supplier Award in 2019. And the reason we got this was because we worked with the partner to tailor some management development programs that then moved on to being an apprenticeship program for KFC. So we co-created an apprenticeship program with KFC to train their managers. And this is about working with businesses to upskill and fundamentally the right skill bases to help address issues within the company. Next slide. I talked about the staff in my innovation center. That's where we're based. And very recently we had a partnership with NatWest, and we worked with NatWest to deliver its business builder program in Leicester. First time it's been delivered in Leicester, and that's to help support starting off about 140 businesses that were engaged at that time. So essentially, I think what I'm trying to show is that we're very much an applied research university. We're very much about empowering our businesses, our community, working collectively to co-create and address some of those issues around skills, around productivity, and around expertise. That's it. Sorry, I missed that last one. Thank you. So thanks for listening to me at that point. I think I am now going to pass back to Phil Baker. Oh, it's me next. I just looked at the agenda.
Sorry, David. Yes, you're back on with some more case studies to showcase.
Okay.
But I just say to all three of you, thank you so much for your strict adherence to the timekeeping and keeping it moving. It's very much appreciated. And just a reminder to the audience as well, please submit any questions you may have for the professors, and I'll ask them on your behalf at the conclusion of the presentations. Thank you. Back to you, David.
Okay, thank you. So in this part, I'm going to kind of showcase some of the work we've done very recently. And as an applied curriculum university with a broad curriculum, we have expertise that ranges from sustainable development, renewable energy, engineering, electronics, digital, cyber, AI, including life sciences. So we have a broad curriculum with expertise in several areas. I decided particularly to just focus on digital expertise we have and what we're doing with this to support businesses in our region. Two things before I start. We have a Cyber Technology Institute, which is the only East Midlands academic center of excellence in cybersecurity. So and this has been brought about with the work we've been doing with Deloitte, Airbus, etc., etc. But we have strong, significant expertise in cybersecurity. Similarly, the Computer Science School also has significant expertise, world-renowned expertise in applying AI and big data to solving problems. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to reference three simple examples. First of all, this is again about creating the platform for engagement, where the East Midlands Chambers Artificial Intelligence and Cyber Partner for projects across Derbyshire, Leicestershire, and Nottinghamshire, particularly supporting their digital upscaler, which is about supporting hundreds of businesses that have ambitions to scale up. And this scheme provides technical support and also some capital grants. But we are very much underpinning this work in terms of the artificial intelligence aspects and cybersecurity. Next slide, please. It's all very well engaging with just academic staff or any company, but you can also engage with our students. And there are opportunities for students to have placements in companies and help companies address some of those challenges that you've always put to one side and thought, well, when we have time, we'll come on to that. This is again an excellent example where students from our computer science department, experts in AI, they're all studying AI. We partnered with Waitrose to see how we could work with them to improve supermarket pricing for end of shelf life goods. Essentially, where you have data, lots of data, and you haven't perhaps got the time to look for trends within this data, or what this data is telling you. There's always an opportunity to work with students in this area to help perhaps extract information that may be of value to you in your strategic thinking for your business. Next slide, please. And my last slide is going to end up on cybersecurity. As a Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity, we partnered with Deloitte to construct and develop what's called a Security Operations Center. So this allows any organization to come into the center and to prepare for a cyber attack, a simulation of a cyber attack in real time. So it's a kind of a gamification of a cyber attack. And it helps senior managers within an organization to plan how to respond and to can review policies, etc. But again, it's a facility that could be rented out, and we have experts who can help support this kind of activity. Last slide. So next slide, please. Sorry. So oh gosh, I'm mindful of 5 minutes. I'm very quick on this. We also have again another example of impacting business by design. Work we've done with Nottingham University and Brunel, which was an EU project to help with development of design prototypes, where companies could come to any of these 3 universities with a design problem, and academics would help to facilitate and address that problem. Last slide, please. So my final message is, the 3 institutions, we all have different strengths and different areas of expertise. That's the contact detail if you want to explore either skills, tailored programs, apprenticeships, or anything to do with digital examples I've provided. That's the contact detail. I'm sorry if I've gone beyond 5 minutes, but I will now pass.
No, don't worry, David. We've got plenty of time, and we haven't actually had any questions from the audience yet, so we may have a bit of time at the end anyway. So it was just to thank you for the broad range that you've covered there, and to say to Steve and Phil, yeah, no need to rush. We've got plenty of time, so take as long as you need to go run through your slides. So yes, I think we're on to you now, Steve, to cover a case study from Loughborough University.
So thank you, Graham. Can I have the next slide, please? So I talked before in my little introduction about being able to access an awful lot of information about the various mechanisms and so on from the web. So this is the result of Googling Loughborough University Enterprise. Perhaps that's a phrase I'll keep saying so that you can have it in mind. And there you'll see all the different ways that we can interact. I'm just going to pick a couple of examples from that rather than going through them in detail. The ways in which you can engage are as wide as you can possibly imagine. So from use of conference facilities on campus through to use of some very specialist facilities that we have on campus, through to coming to join us and becoming a part of our community. And let me elaborate a little bit on the last 2 of those 3. Can I have the next slide, please? So I said before that one of the great advantages of being able to work with universities is that we can often attract public funding that can take the things that we can do together up onto another scale and make them happen with a substance that wouldn't be possible without that additional public funding. One of the projects that we've been running for quite a long time of and that I feel very proud of is something called the iNet. It's had various names over the last decade or more that it's existed, but we have directly supported many hundreds of regional SMEs through the funding that iNet has had, generally from the European Regional Development Fund, but also from other sources too. And not just at LU, so the iNet helps regional SMEs to find support wherever it may come from in the region. And I also suggested, next slide please, that there is the possibility to come and join the community. And one of the things that we're very proud of at Loughborough is the vision that we have to create an academic and a business community working together on a single campus. So our science park is on the west side of our campus, the round numbers that we use to describe the size of our science park now are 90 organisations, 3,000 employees. So that's 3,000 employees who don't work for the university, and to put that in context, pretty much the same size as the number of employees we have at the university. So it's now become a very substantial activity, and one that we hope to continue to grow. The shot on the picture is our new, well, it's a few years old now, but our new innovation centre, which is just one of the buildings that we have on the site there. As it happens, it was my project, and amongst the many contributions I made to making it happen was to stop it from being painted red. And the blue colour is all down to me. That I may have gained your support or lost your support by making that remark. Next slide, please. And there's a real variety of businesses that are with us on our Science and Enterprise Park now, from the very biggest, such as Rolls-Royce, who we've been working with for a long time, to companies like Previsico, who are one of our newest spin-out companies looking at flood modelling, and then all sizes in between. You'll recognise some of these organisations as well-known names like BSI and National Grid, and others much smaller companies. So there's really a very broad range, and we can offer everything from kind of rent-a-desk in the Innovation Centre through to a new build that we've just completed for the Access Group that will take, I'm not sure how many staff there are, I think there's about 800 staff who are coming to join us there. Next slide, please. But the point I really want to make to finish my few words on this section, and I'd be very keen to explore these things with you, is, we can talk about organisations working with, can my organisation work with your organisation? But even when I look at the very best of our collaborations, such as with Rolls-Royce, who we've been working with in a formal partnership for 30 years now, there are people in my organisation who like working with the people in the other organisation. And while over time those people change, actually what really makes our best collaborations work as well as they do is that people like working with the people. And so understanding what makes each other tick, I think, is really important. And so I've given some bullet points and maybe some points to ponder about, what are the things that would motivate our academic experts, and you'd have the corresponding list for yourselves. So certainly just the very ability to talk to non-academic experts with shared interests, putting together, as I was saying about our science part, business world and academic world, putting those two worlds together with some shared values and some shared interests makes some very powerful things happen for both communities, and that I put at the top of my list. Academics often feel like they're spinning lots of plates, so when we talk to businesses, we might be thinking about how that organisation might enhance the experience for our taught students, maybe through projects or placements. Maybe that organisation might recruit our graduates. Maybe there might be an opportunity to upskill a workforce or to reskill a workforce at postgraduate level. Maybe there'll be some opportunities to engage for our PhD students. It's certainly be the case that academics will be thinking very prominently about how a relationship with a non-academic organisation can enhance their research capability. Will we be able to increase our prospects of attracting research funding by working with you? Will the quality of our publications go up? Will we be able to deliver impacts, whether they're social, cultural or economic, from the research that we'll do? And these thoughts will be very prominent in the mind of academics. One of the things that is very special to a university is the very wide range of subject areas that we're able to offer expertise in across the piece. And one of the opportunities that I think goes down very well with academics is the opportunity to apply expertise into a new area. So, for example, if you're a technology business, you may not have social science expertise. And if you're a social science academic, you may not have links into technology businesses. But the two things put together may be able to do something very special that neither party can do on its own. I'd also say that academics are looking for more than a casual fling. Now, all relationships have to start somewhere, but if your consequence of you making contact with Loughborough University as a consequence of what we've spoken about today, you contact us and you say, I've got a problem or an idea, is that something that you'd be interested in? Can we do the same, at least back to you? If and then a little bit down the line, we've got a problem or an idea and we want to test that out, and then we can start to see a relationship blossom from there. I would say that if you think that you might speak to us because we're an alternative to a commercial consultancy provider, for example, that can turn a piece of work round very quickly for you on a consultancy basis, and that's not really making the best use of what a university is for. We're best when the problem that you're facing, or that the idea that you've got, doesn't have an established way to be resolved. That's when you're making the most of the kind of relationship that you have with the university. And I describe the sweet spot as when solving your problem advances my academic interests. And so I hope those thoughts will give you some food for thought, and we might discuss them later. And now I think I'm handing back to Phil.
So thank you very much, Steve. An awful lot of what Steve said resonates across all three universities. I really like that last slide, Steve, which I think if the audience just take one slide away, that emphasis on the fact that we're looking for sustainable medium to long-term partnerships, I think is really important. And I have to say that as an ardent, lifelong Leicester City fan, you've unequivocally gone up in my estimation by the switch from red to blue. So I'm completely with you on that. Anyway, now for something that is very different. I wanted to talk just for a few minutes around Space Park Leicester and the UK space sector, because the global space sector is growing rapidly. It's forecast to be worth £500 billion by 2030, and that growth is going to be derived from a number of sources: satellite-enabled infrastructure, new products, new services enabled by satellites and data, and this in turn will require ground-based infrastructure, manufacturing, launch maintenance, data processing, etc. So the UK government's target is to capture 10% of this global space sector, and that's about 100,000 new jobs. The Prime Minister's chairing a National Space Council, and space features very large in the UK's innovation strategy. Just look at the government's recent £500 million purchase of a company called OneWeb, which is a volume satellite production company. Next slide, please. Thank you. So when you think about space, don't fall into the trap of thinking that it's all about exploration and discovery alone. The technology is applied to our terrestrial lives in a range of different ways. So our scientists in Leicester, within the National Centre for Earth Observation, are using satellite data to monitor the changing temperatures of the oceans so that we can understand more about climate change. Our partners, AST Space Mobile, are investing in satellite-enabled internet to provide life-changing access to the 3 billion people on the planet who still don't have reliable internet access. And one of our spin-outs is using space technology to provide air quality data that's supporting governments around the world to develop clean transport strategies. Our Centre for Climate and Landscape Research has developed a smartphone app enabled by satellite data that provides forest rangers with rapid alerts if deforestation is occurring. So there's a whole range of different global issues that are being tackled through this space sector investment. Next slide, please. Thank you indeed. But the type of growth that the UK is targeting isn't going to happen by itself. And it's in this context that the university's developed the vision and partnership to create Space Park Leicester. And what's really exciting is that that's now gaining national and regional traction. And our task is to build, our collective task is to build a dynamic industrial cluster that builds on the research and talent assets produced by the university. And I should say it's not just the University of Leicester, but there are other universities within the Midlands that are contributing to this research and talent asset. We're creating businesses such as EarthSense in the air quality field, as well as attracting major global businesses in the region, from AST Mobile through to Rolls-Royce, who are developing the necessary technologies. And businesses at Space Park Leicester benefit from a range of innovation services, including a European Space Agency business incubator. It's a crowded global landscape, and in innovation, cities can often struggle to develop a distinctive positioning. But we see Leicester as having a unique collection of assets to grow skilled jobs and productivity under this moniker of being the UK's space city. So that's just a little bit about Space Park Leicester. If you're interested, if you think there might be opportunities, please don't hesitate to utilize the contact details in the earlier presentation and just come and talk to us. Doesn't matter whether you're a large company or a small company, we are very much open for business. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil, and thank you all three for some really impressive, comprehensive presentations. It's hard to know where to start, frankly, given the plethora of information that you've shared with us today. So a massive thank you for your time and effort in pulling that together. I mean, we've heard, we all know about the space park. Hopefully, anyone that's driven in around Abbey Lane will be very aware of the impressive construction that's taken place there. Such an asset to the city, and so promising about all the economic benefits that it's going to bring to the city in the coming years. But so from space to digital, AI, climate change, cyber security, absolutely phenomenal. I guess to some extent you've answered one of the questions that's come in, because we've seen from the UK studies the type of businesses that you've been working with. I mean, we've heard about EarthSense, the KFC supplier, Cyber Technology Institute, etc. But we have had a question coming in as to say what type and size of businesses can access your help. Anyone want to pick up on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to just respond. So all sizes. So I mean, we're able to react or to respond to the type of size of company, which in a way sometimes determines the type of challenge that they want to have addressed. You know, we've worked with micro companies with 2 or 3 people who need a design sorted out. We're able to provide that kind of support. Similarly, with you know, Deloitte, who has tens of thousands of companies who want some support on cybersecurity. So I think there shouldn't be, from my point of view, we shouldn't consider a size as being a limit. I think we're open to all businesses, irrespective of size. And the key thing is to try and make sure that we tailor the right expertise to support them.
Yes, yeah, I appreciate that, and I got that sense from your presentations, but I wanted to pass the question on, and thank you for confirming. And I liked the analogy that was used about looking for long-term relationships, not just I can't remember the exact phrase I can't see the phrase you use now, but the casual fling. Yes, yeah. So yeah, medium to long-term relationships makes a lot of sense.
I think Phil wanted to come in, Graham.
Yes, please do.
Yeah,
Phil?
I was just going to reiterate David's comments. The only thing that I probably didn't flag, and I probably should, as by background I'm a medic, I'm a life scientist, is that the international Shanghai ranking ranks Leicester in the top 20 centres in the world for clinical medicine and healthcare research. So I think that's sometimes an underappreciated opportunity and asset within our city. That's ranking us as the top UK centre outside the Golden Triangle. So, that's ranking us above the Manchester's, Birmingham's, Nottingham's, Edinburgh's. It's also ranking us above Stamford and Monash, actually. So,
wow.
you know, there is a massive enterprise there if people want to access it. And I think sometimes the problem that all three of us have, David, Steve and myself, is the East Midlands can be quite reticent. I'm a Leicester boy, and it can be quite reticent in actually banging the drum and talking about the excellence that's in all three of our centres. There are some parts of the country, and we won't necessarily mention the Northern Powerhouse, where they sometimes are a little bit less reticent in highlighting their strengths and opportunities. So it's great to have this session. It's great to have this showcase to talk about what's really good in our city and county.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, and I'll be saying more about that when we summarise towards the end. I suppose a kind of a follow-on question about the type of businesses you work with is, do you actually proactively seek out potential opportunities, kind of like collaboration opportunities with businesses in your catchment area, so to speak? I guess you've got, I suppose the world is your catchment area realistically, but is it all inbound inquiries, or do you sort of have opportunities to share your research with local enterprises?
I would say it's very much a combination of the two. I think academics spend a lot of time trying to find the right partners for particular projects. There's geography is not a fundamental limitation on who we might work with, but gosh, geography does help. We know that from opening our campus in London, that the partners that we've accessed from that site are not a prohibitive distance away from the Midlands, and no fundamental reason why we can't build those partnerships from the Midlands base. But it just doesn't happen. Even that sort of short geographic separation is enough to make things out a little bit more difficult. Maybe there are nearer potential collaborators than us. So geography turns out does really matter to finding that winning combination of people who really want to work with other people. It's absolutely one of the motivations for our Science and Enterprise Park. So we're not, our motivation is not to be a landlord. Our motivation is to bring companies onto that site who want to work with us in all the different ways that we can, making the most of that proximity. They're on the west side of our campus, and that's really working for us.
Because I guess we've all become a lot more upskilled and conversant with video technology over the last 18 months, but there's only so much you can do on screen, isn't there? There's really no substitute for face-to-face interaction and sitting around a table to really hammer things out and move things forward.
Can I just add to?
I did want to. Sorry,
can
David.
I just add to what? Just to agree completely with Steve. We also try and publish relevant articles in trade journals that would be of interest to businesses in that particular sector. And we try and host events for businesses to try and showcase again what we can offer. So that's a way of trying to attract the interest. But we all, as all our innovation centers, have business development managers who also go out to try and sell the expertise we have to businesses to help solve their problems.
Okay, thank you. I'm just checking. Sorry, can you give us your views on the types of courses students are choosing to study and their relevance to future society needs?
Shall I start that? I mean, we're a comprehensive university, and I suspect my colleagues will also be delighted by the fact that a higher proportion of students are going to university this year than ever before. So we've all met our intake targets, I suspect. The massive demand for us this year where we were enormously oversubscribed was in areas around medicine, anything to do with allied health, so nursing, midwifery, physiotherapy. We're always oversubscribed by medicine, but possibly related to the pandemic, there's been a further increase. Also, a lot of people wanting to study psychology, and again, we can think about why that is the case, but I know that's a national trend. We're going to be producing a vast number of psychologists. Clearly, we're very keen to encourage students in areas where we'll make a contribution to our manufacturing base, so engineering, the hard sciences, etc. And delighted to see those numbers holding up. But the massive oversubscribing is around anything to do with healthcare from our perspective.
Okay, if we can just quickly, David, and then I've got another more lengthy question, which may be the final one, depending on how long it takes to.
I completely agree with Phil. We're having the same observations. Our nursing program is completely packed, but also I should say computing is picking up, which I suppose evidence. Yes, and also in the creative areas around animation and game design. So that fusion between creative and computer science is an area of growth as well that we are seeing.
Thank you. Okay, a question from Peter Small. Thank you, Peter. Earlier in the week, a DMU presentation told us how much industrial activity will be needed locally to will be needed locally to achieve net zero emissions from transport in the city. If a company thinks it can do something in this area and needs help, what should they do to find out what help a university can provide? And might the help include some financial support? And what about IP and any IP which may fall out of it?
Well, since it was DMU, perhaps I should go first, and then I'll let my colleagues come in. Yeah, so please contact, there's 2 email addresses I put on the slide, so contact any of those, make contact on those email addresses and we will get back in touch with you. We have experts in sustainable development, engineering and sustainable development, who look at electric cars, look at improving efficiencies of PV panels. So we have a range of expertise and some sophisticated labs. So by all means, come and see us. If you're worried about your ideas and you want to protect your ideas before you talk to us, we have a simple NDA template, which would then give you, I suppose, the freedom to speak freely, knowing that your ideas are secure and they belong to you. And should a project materialize, either funded internally by yourself, jointly, yourself and the university, or that we assist you in trying to seek external funding for a project, irrespective of which path we take, we can also discuss the intellectual property. If the academics are providing some intellectual property to the project, as you have, then there are different ways we can share the IP, we can license the IP. It's a whole topic area on licensing. So I wouldn't, what I'm saying to Peter, I think it was, is please don't hesitate in coming forward. Your idea can be protected very early on with a non-disclosure agreement.
Thank you. Phil and Steve, anything to add or different on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I talked about some of the priority areas for our research. I guess you could describe them as the priority areas for our academic activity generally, whether we're talking about talk programs or master's level CPD type work or research as well. But a number of them have a very, very significant net zero challenge dimension to them, particularly around manufacturing and the circular economy, around transportation, around the built environment, around energy technologies, and also around living with climate change, particularly for enhancing the resilience of communities around the world, generally in poorer parts of the world whose lives are already threatened by climate change. We do an awful lot of work there. too. So there's a huge amount of effort underway there, and these are also good areas to try to attract public funding into as well. So that's together we might be able to do something on a significant scale. And the only thing I'd add on the topic of IP to what David said is that don't allow the sort of the IP concerns to become the major topic of conversation. The sharing of IP or the ownership of IP depends hugely on who's paying for the piece of work. It's possible for an external organisation to pay entirely for a piece of work, in which case they own all of the IP. It's much more common for us to do work where it's shared between, for example, a partner, the university, and the research council, say, and obviously the IP ownership will vary according to those kind of specific details. Myself, I'm really concerned that we can spend too much time protecting IP and not enough time getting it out there and making the world a better place. So I'll leave you with that thought to conjure with.
Yeah, good point. Phil?
I think it's a really good point, actually. It's one of the things I spend a lot of time saying as well. Don't let IP get in the way. I see both academics and partners sometimes get too worried and too frustrated about IP issues. Steve's absolutely right. The most important thing is that we ensure that the work has an impact, and there are always ways of getting around IP issues. It needs a conversation. It needs to be open, candid, right from the get-go. But I think all of the universities would feel that we shouldn't be having IP as a barrier. Otherwise, I mean, David and Steve have stolen my sandwiches. All of the comments they made would apply to ourselves at Leicester as well. I thought I'd answer one related question I've seen on the chat on behalf of all of us, which was really, if a company comes to us and other skills are needed, like marketing and customer care, how will that work? And I think all of the universities would not just want to support organisations coming to us, but are actually quite skilled at connecting with other supporters relevant, just enlarging the partnerships to make sure, because our agendas are all the same. We want to ensure that the exciting developments, whether they're the exciting ideas, whether they're coming from you or from us, have a path to actually helping people and having an impact. So we've got common agendas, and the most important thing is that initial conversation. We've all stressed that the doors are open, the contact details are out there. Please don't be reticent, just come and talk to us.
Perfect, thank you. And perhaps we shouldn't be surprised that you're stealing each other's sandwiches, because there is commonality in the resources that you're offering to Leicestershire businesses. So thank you for that. So before I just briefly hand over to Neil to wrap up, I'd just like to once again reiterate my thanks to you for the time you've given and the information that you've shared, which we will make available to you on our website, because, as I say, there is such a wide plethora of information which I'm sure our members will need time to read and reflect on and digest before taking action. And the final part is a call to action. It's for businesses to say, hopefully this has inspired you to make contact, to see how you can collaborate and engage with the talent that these wonderful universities can make available. And to advisors on the call, please spread the word and shout it from the rooftops. Signpost your business contacts to the universities to tap into these gold mines. So I'll shut up now and hand over to you, Neil.
So there's my sandwich. Yeah, first of all, thank you, gentlemen. It's been really interesting to hear, and also the openness with which you're talking about what was, I think, a tricky question about IP or a stumbling block. I love what Steve said. Let's get these ideas out there, and I would say let's try and make money for it. And that then has its own life, and on we go. So yes, we have our next event, which is going to be based around the excuse me, COP26. I've also been on various conversations with the council on behalf of the LBV to look at what the council and our citizens can do to get to net zero, but do it in a positive way. It doesn't have to be, oh my God, it's a disaster. It's what can we do to make this and our businesses find answers to this obvious need that we have to accept. So let's make something positive out of it. Leicester people can get stuck in. We just do it quietly, Phil. That's I think a problem that we should work with. But we do get on and come up with zillions of ideas. So I should also say, in terms of why be a member, from my experience as a member of LBV, I think that now is increasingly becoming a time when our business voice is being listened to, and we're not seen as whingers in the corner. We're actually seen as people that can come up with influencing how our society can develop. For business is a critical role to play, and so please do join Leicester Business Voice if you aren't already a member, because we want to take your views on board and actually then take them into the people who are making other decisions in our neck of the woods. So the transport policy we're involved in, green growth, we're looking at seeing what we can do. We're members of the local LEP, so we can make influence the way we look at things there, and obviously the net zero plans. And that's just other stuff that the board of LBV are doing on your behalf, but we need some more richness in your ideas and thoughts, so please do join if you're not. See you on the 29th, but Graham, do you want to just final thank you to everybody and etc.
You've done it for me. Thanks to everyone. Have a great weekend, and yes, let's hope Leicester City beat Man City tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
I wouldn't go that
far. It's the wrong blue then, is it?
Oh.
Okay. Well, it's better than Man U anyway. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.